Hey, what's going on, guys? This is JD Moonin. I am coming at you guys with another Magicka DK build. I know it's been long awaited for this patch because I haven't released anything in this patch. As you guys know, I took a massive break at the beginning of this patch. I just wasn't enjoying the meta. Well, so I found out, and I went digging in my archive, okay, and I found a way to beat the meta. So we are beating the meta now, this patch. We have broken it. We're dropping the standard, okay? This is going to be the standard, in my opinion, for Magicka DK builds moving forward up here in the near future. So what we are running on this one, it's going to be basically the revamped version of the Wyrd build. So for those of you longtime viewers of mine who know about the Wyrd build, this is the now updated build for that, and it works really well in this current meta, especially with Slodes and the Major Defile that is just a plague all over Cyrodiil. Okay, it's gonna just allow you to get rid of all that bullshit. So let's go ahead and dive into stats here. I kind of want to go over unbuffed stats first real quick. So on our front bar, unbuffed stats, we're looking at 39.8 thousand max Magicka. This is a fuckload considering we're in 6 pieces of heavy, okay? 24.2k health and 15k max stamina. I don't like to be under 24,000 health. I feel like anything under that, you're just looking to get bursted. I mean, just period. Now, moving on here, if we're looking over here at spell damage, we're sitting at 24.99 unbuffed with 32% crit. Our Magicka recovery is 896. I don't need more than this. If you do, I completely understand, but I mean, I've just been playing this class so long, I don't need a whole lot of sustain, and I do just fine. Health recovery is 441, and stamina recovery is 700. Now, spell resistance, we're sitting at 21,853 on the front bar and 18,190 on the front bar as well. For food, we're running Tri-Stat, and we're running the Apprentice for more damage. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and buff up here. Okay, buffing up, buffing up. Then we're going to switch back over to that front bar and show you guys the stats. 2998 spell damage. That is a fuckload. Okay, you are doing a shitload of damage on this build. Now, moving forward, let's go ahead and buff up the resistance buff as well. On our front bar, we're sitting at 27k spell resistance with 23.4k physical. I don't feel like you need more than that. I'm fine, you know, I'm fine with that. That's perfect for me. Now, when we're talking about health recovery, 441, guys, don't underestimate health recovery. It is extremely strong. Vampire blows dick. Don't use it. Especially this patch, you don't need it. Vampire sucks. They need to revamp it. So we're just going to have to wait for that change in order to run it again. So now moving on, we're going to go ahead and move back over to the back bar. We're going to take a look at stats here. Boom, boom. We're going to buff up. And so buff stats on the back bar, we're looking at 30.5k spell resistance and 26.8. I like to have those high resistances on my back bar for when I'm popping my heals. Works out really, really nice for me. We got 37k max Magicka, 24k max health, and 15k max stam with this, just about the same amount of recoveries. So we're also looking at 32% spell critical on the back bar with 2470 spell damage. Now 2470 spell damage, it's going to give you good heals. So don't be afraid to have a little bit less spell damage on the back bar. Not only that, but while you're on the front bar, your Cauterize is going to heal you a lot more anyways. So let's go ahead and dive into the meat of the build. And I'm going to show you guys that we are not using 2 5 pieces on this build. We are doing something completely different and bringing something new to the table that hasn't been brought to the table in a long time when it comes to builds in general, okay? So now, taking a look at the build, what we're sitting at on the front bar is, on the build we have Blood Spawn. Now both of these are going to be heavy in pin, and these are going to be active all the time. And then we are sitting at 4 pieces of Wyrd Tree. Now these will be golded out. I just didn't bother golding them out for the video because it's really not a whole lot more resistance. I'm just a gold monkey and want all my shit gold, so these will be gold today. So I will be golding them out. But I just wanted to go ahead and get this content made and get it out there for you guys so you can see what I'm wearing. Now we are running an in-pin chest. The only reason why actually these pieces aren't gold is because my gold pieces of Wyrd Tree, they're both sturdy. So I wanted a little bit more in-pin. All right, so moving on. So we have an in-pin chest. We have an in-pin gauntlets. We are running in-pin greaves and in-pin boots as well with an in-pin sash. So we're running 7 pieces of in-pin. I did this just to achieve a little bit more in-pin since I don't really need the sturdy. I don't find myself blocking that much in this build, so I just don't need the sturdy at all. I'd rather just get flat in-pin. Honestly, I would probably be a little bit more impressed with some reinforced on the chest and maybe the pants. If you wanted more resistance, you know, I think 2 pieces of reinforced would actually be probably the best way to go. But I'm fine with in-pin. You know, I don't really feel like going and buying and golding out another piece or fucking transmuting those pieces. Anyway, so now we are only running a 3-piece of sun on the front bar, okay? Now we're going to have a 2-piece of sun active at all times to give us additional health, but we are going to have a 3-piece of sun active 100%, I'm sorry, a 3-piece of sun active on the front bar. Now, people, I know a lot of you guys are looking at my low sustain. The way I'm achieving this sustain is I'm running 2 sustain glyphs, okay? So I like that with low sustain, just helps out, and then I run my damage on my back bar, okay? So that's just how I'm running it. If you want to run it, 1 damage on the back bar, another sustain on the back bar, totally up to you. Completely understand if that's how you want to run that. So now the reason why we're running the 3 pieces of sun is because that's going to, like I said, it's going to give us the health, and it's also going to give us the max Magicka, which is going to be crucial for this build because Wyrd Tree nor Bloodspawn gives us max health, okay? So we definitely need that extra little bit of health to keep us out of just heavy burst range of getting just bursted down, okay? So we want to stake around that 2,400 or 24,000 health to avoid getting bursted down by multiple targets, okay? So naturally, you get enough people on, you're just going to get bursted down, but that's going to keep us from getting bursted down by 2 or 3 sorks at one time, okay? So you definitely want to make sure you're running that. Now, this is where we're getting back into old school stuff that no one uses anymore, okay? So we are running willpower, okay? This is how I'm achieving such high max Magicka on my front bar with such high damage. So the problem I was running into with running a 5-piece of sun or a 5-piece of burning spell weave or just a 5-piece of really anything was I was lacking in the max Magicka department. Especially when I'm running sets like Wyrd Tree or Shulk or, you know, something like that. I wanted a little bit more meat when I'm running these setups. And so what I have found was that running, you know, 1-piece Wyrd Tree on my back bar while having, you know, two 3-piece sets active at all times was just much more beneficial because it's just going to give me more shit. So anyways, so since and the other thing I was running into with 5 pieces too was a lot of the time I'm getting pieces of that set that I just don't want. So the 5 piece of those sets doesn't outweigh the utility that I'm lacking because I'm getting pieces that I don't need, you know, traits or you know, pieces of sets that I just don't need or I'm not going to utilize like I would if I was running a 3-piece of willpower. So anyway, so what we're going to have is we're going to have a Nirnhone Sword of the Sun. Yes, it is a trait change for me. If you want to run, you know, a Sharpen, 2 Sharpen on the front bar, that's fine, or Sharpen Precise, that's fine, but Nirnhone's just going to outperform. And then we are running a Sharpened Willpower Sword on the front bar. That's going to give us that extra bit of pin that we're not getting because we're in heavy. And that's going to give us, the Nirnhone's going to give us that extra bit of damage so we can overachieve on the damage there. Now, swapping to the back bar. This is where the build gets really interesting. So we're running 3-piece willpower on the back bar as well. So I've got a willpower shield reinforced on the back bar. And we're running a decisive sword of the Wyrd Tree. I think decisive currently is the way to go on the back bar. It is too much sustain to look over. Especially, I'm sorry, just on a DK in general. Just decisive is so good. Like if I was in a light armor build and I was running dual wood, I'd be running Nirnhone fucking decisive all day. I might even just go decisive on the front bar anyways, just because decisive is so good. So now we're running the 2-piece of sun on the back bar. We have the 3-piece of willpower, and we have our 5-piece of Wyrd Tree on the back bar. Now what this 5-piece of Wyrd Tree on the back bar is going to do is it's going to allow us to maximize our heals. It's really funny to watch somebody who's spamming reverb, watch you flip over to your back bar, okay? And when they have all these dots trickling on you and you just flip over to the back bar, you know, their slows is activated and you just go, boom, activate fucking Cauterize and Dragon Blood and you just heal all the way to full and they're sitting there like dumbfounded like, why is my Defile not working? Well, it's because we're countering your fucking shitty meta, Okay, that's why. So that's what we're doing with this particular piece. Now, let's go ahead and dive into CP. So you guys can see what I did with CP. CP, I've min-maxed a lot. I've worked on a lot of really interesting stuff. I've jacked with numbers, fucked with a lot of shit, and I've found out a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't know. So, moving on. In this tree, we're running 19 points into Bless for that 5% additional healing done. So what I've found is healing done, yes, it's good, but you don't need 10 points because our healing done is going to get increased by our spell damage anyways. So just go ahead and just get that up to about 5%. You'll be fine. Now, if you want to take those points, put them into spell erosion, go ahead, but this is how I prefer to run my setup here. We're going to be running 56 points into Elfborn. That's because not only is our crit damage going to be getting affected, but so is our crit heals. So we want that 20%. And then we're going to be running 43 points into Elemental Expert just to give us that 10%. I've found that going over that, the diminishing returns are just too shit. So 10% is perfect for me with Elemental Expert. 6 points into Spell Erosion because I got a couple of extra points. Didn't know what to do with them. Now we're running 51 points into Master at Arms. It's going to give us 19% increased damage on our direct damage abilities. I did find that having 20 points into Thaumaturge over Master at Arms was a little bit more beneficial because most of my damage is coming from dots. So I'm finding that not only is my damage going to be increased with Thaumaturge, but so is my heal off of Burning Embers. So I've got 19 points into Piercing, and I know a lot of people are going, well, why the hell do you have 19 points into Piercing? One, putting those 19 points into Thaumaturge is a complete fucking waste. Two, I run dual wield, okay? So being that I am running dual wield, I am still doing physical damage, and since my physical damage is so minute, having that extra penetration on the physical penetration is way more beneficial for my light and heavy attacks with the dual wield. So, and that's going to pop us over to the Exploiter. It's going to give us that 10% increased damage to off-balance targets, which is just way too good. Retaliation, we definitely do have Retaliation, and we also have Riposte. These are both going to benefit our block, so that's something to keep in mind as well. Now, you always want to make sure you get Arcane well, so you want 120 points in Apprentice no matter what. That's going to get you your Foresight, which is going to reduce your Magicka ability, the next Magicka ability after you drink a potion for 7 seconds. It's going to give you Spell Precision and also our Vengeance. So Arcane Well, though, is going to be a very crucial part of your sustain whenever you're just fucking up groups of people. Moving on. So this is where my numbers got crazy, okay? So I realized that over here there's no actual 120 anything that's going to be that beneficial to us. So then I went and I was also looking at the numbers on spell resistance, also on hardy and elemental defender. So what I was able to find out with the numbers was that if I take elemental defender to 5% reduction of spell damage coming in, right, it's going to be the exact same amount of damage reduction for 19 points into spell resist. So if I'm achieving 18, 15 spell resist, that's actually 16% mitigation. I'm sorry, not 16, 6% mitigation, and this is giving us 5. So overall, it's just nice to do that 19-19 split with those two. Now with Hardy, I found that whenever you're in a light armor build, you're going to want to put those 19 points in light armor focus. In a heavy armor build, you're going to want to put them in the heavy armor focus, and that's going to give us the same split on those, okay? So now let's go ahead and go through with what we're doing completely. So we're running 56 points into Ironclad and 19 points in Spell Shield. That's going to give us our Invigorating Bash, which is going to give us that nice little heal. That's going to give us Phase, and it's also going to give us our Critical Leech, which is just a nice little heal that we get when we take critical damage. Now, Thick Skinned, I found that on a Mag DK, the thing that fucks you up the most if you're running a block build is dots. And not only that, but dots this patch are retarded, especially with Slodes. So being that Slodes is so fucking faggot, okay, and I can't stand the set, we're able to reduce that damage by 20%. So that's we're only gonna be taking 800 damage per Slode tick if they're running 20 or running a bunch of points in a Thaumaturge. So now, we're running 19 points in Elemental Defender. That's going to give us that 5% reduction. We're running 19 points in a Hardy for another 5% reduction on physical damage. 19 points... Oh, let's actually go over this real quick. That's going to give us Spell Absorption. Okay. And so that's going to be whenever we take Flame, Frost, Shock, or Magic or Oblivion damage equal to 30% of our max health, you restore 3465 Magicka. This is going to be really nice for some sustain if we're getting beat on by Storks or just a bunch of assholes running Oblivion damage. So then we also have Bulwark, which is going to give us, basically it's going to give us spell and physical damages increase, or spell and physical resistance increased by 1500 just for having a shield re-equipped on our back bar. Now moving forward to Critical Leech, that's also going to give us a nice little heal on critical damage. So that's just a nice little thing to have. Now moving over here, we have 19 points into Expert Defender, 19 points into Heavy Armor Focus. Now the reason why I went 19 points in Expert Defender is because yes, light attacks are really strong this patch, but I've found that if we do a nice little reduction, reducing them by 10% is fine. We don't need much more than that, in my opinion. Now, Quick Recovery. This is where our healing is going to come from. Quick Recovery is by far the most important healing CP passive in the game. So the way it works is, yes, I understand that our healing done is really nice with the CP passive in the blue tree, but Quick Recovery is going to increase all healing coming in and me putting what I'm putting out. So these are going to stack with that healing done, but you definitely want 10% in here at a minimum. So moving forward, we're going to look at Infusion. Whenever we resurrect another player, that's going to increase our Magicka recovery by 743 for 8 seconds. Revival, when you resurrected another player, you gain a damage shield. Whenever you are resurrected by another player, you gain a damage shield that absorbs 5,115 damage for 5 seconds. As well as Field Physician. While you're resurrecting another player, your damage taken is reduced by 15%. So those are nice little passives to have for group play, or if there's a bunch of pugs around you. Now, moving on to Warlord. So basically, we are going to run 20% into Warlord, and we are also going to be running 13 points into Sprinter and 2 points into Bashing Focus. Now this is going to allow us to achieve our Inspiration boost, which is nice to have. I like to have that up at all times, and whenever we bash, we have a 33% chance to reduce movement speed by 20%. So Warlord's going to just give us that break free 20% reduction cost, and Bash, that's because we just had 2 extra points. And Sprint, the reason why we have so many points into Sprinter, okay, I think I might have one too many points in there, but that's okay. The reason why I have so many points into Sprinter is because on this build, you're running a lot, okay? So now moving on over here to the Lover, by far my favorite page. So we have Arcanist, which is going to give us 11% into here. Now what I found is actually having 11 points in Arcanist was more beneficial than just putting retarded amount of points into all of them. So that's going to give us 9% in Mooncalf at 37 points, and also 9% into Healthy at 37 points as well. Now these are going to give us Plentiful Harvest, which is going to double our yield for whenever we're farming. It's also going to increase our Magicka and stamina. It's going to give us a Synergy. Whenever we activate a Synergy ability, we're going to gain 2 ultimate. Master Gatherer, and whenever you're also farming, it's going to reduce that farm time by 50%. Now we're getting Wind Running. This is by far probably the most important thing. It's going to increase our movement speed and mounted speed by 2%. Now this is really important on a Mag DK, mainly because we're slow as fuck. So anyways, and that's also going to increase our health and Magicka recovery by 10% while we're sprinting. So this is going to be really good for what we're doing in Open World Cyrodiil right now. Now we have 20% into Tumbling and nothing into Shadow Ward. The reason why we don't have anything in Shadow Ward is because the thing with this build, you're not blocking, so don't try to. You're not a block build, so don't be one. You are doing damage, getting into a fight, and surviving, getting out of the fight. If you have too many people on you, turn around and then face fucking people again. That's what we're doing. So Tumbling, we have 20% in here because you are going to be dodge rolling a lot, especially whenever you have a lot of incoming damage. Dodge roll is just by far the best mitigation in the game. Now, Fortune Sinker, that's going to increase the amount of gold that we're going to find in treasure chests, and we're also going to get Merchant. It's going to just reduce our cost of repair by 10%, which is whatever. So anyways, that's the build. I hope you guys enjoy the footage. There is going to be some footage on the video of how retarded this build actually is. And so yeah, I mean, that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoy the Wyrd build. This is the updated version for the Summerset Patch. So yeah, don't forget to shoot me a like at the bottom of the page. As well, don't forget to come and check us out on droppingstandards.com. If you're all of you guys who are just now hearing about droppingstandards.com, that is our new website that's going to be PvP only. This build will be uploaded on the website for all of y'all to view, as well as we're going to have some more builds coming out as well by a lot of our other builders. So once again, like I said, thank you guys for coming by, watching our content, staying with us all this time, and I will see you guys out there on the battlefield. You guys have fun.